struggled as a single dad after my wife passed away. My S offered to help but then threatened to take my kids away from me. She filed for custody saying I was unfit. I'm really sorry to hear about everything you're going through, David. It sounds like you're caught in an incredibly difficult and emotionally charged situation. From what you've shared, it seems like you've been doing your best under unimaginable circumstances, trying to provide for your kids while managing your grief and theirs. Balancing work, parenting, and loss is hard enough without having to deal with a legal battle over custody. The fact that you're taking steps like adjusting your work schedule, hiring a nanny, and getting the kids into grief counseling shows that you're committed to being a good father. Documenting everything, gathering support from people who know you, and presenting your side to the court are smart moves. It's great that Laura's best friend Angela has come forward to support you and offer insight into Alan's behavior. It's also important to keep communication open with Maria and Jason, reassuring them that you're doing everything to keep the family together. Alan's actions are deeply unsettling, especially her attempts to alienate the kids from you. Have you considered getting a professional mediator involved or seeking additional support from child advocates? That might help ensure the court sees the bigger picture of your family dynamics, and it could help counter Alan's manipulation. Keep gathering evidence and testimonials to show the court how hard you're working to provide stability and love for your children. If you're feeling unsure or overwhelmed, you're not alone. It's natural to question yourself in the face of so much stress, but your efforts and love for your children speak volumes. Laura's role as a mother was significant, and Angela was willing to testify on my behalf during the custody trial. Having her come forward felt like a lifeline because she knew Alan better than most and could help expose the truth that this wasn't about the kids' well-being, but Alan's obsession with having the family life she always wanted. One night, while I was tucking Maria into bed, she looked up at me and said, "Dad, I don't want to live with Aunt Alan. I want to stay with you." It broke my heart because I could see how scared she was. Both of my kids wanted to stay with me, but Alan was making them question everything. The day of the custody trial finally arrived, and the stress leading up to it was overwhelming. I tried to keep calm for the kids' sake, but inside, I was panicking. If Alan somehow won, I didn't know how I would cope with losing my children. Alan's lawyer painted a picture of me as an overworked and distracted father who couldn't provide a stable environment. She made an emotional plea, saying that since the kids were grieving their mother's death, they needed a full-time parent to help them heal. Alan, of course, claimed she was that parent. They even brought in an expert who testified that grieving children needed constant attention, suggesting that a stay-at-home parent would be best for their emotional recovery. It felt like a punch to the gut hearing someone imply I wasn't enough for my own children. The real turning point came when the therapist who had been working with Maria and Jason testified. She emphasized that while grief is a long process, the kids had a strong bond with me and were gradually finding stability in our home. She made it clear that taking them away from the one constant they had left would only harm them more. But then, something completely unexpected happened. George, Alan's husband, asked to testify. George had been quiet throughout this ordeal, and I assumed he was supporting Alan. However, when he took the stand, he shocked everyone. George admitted that he was deeply concerned about Alan's behavior and revealed that over the past few months, she had become obsessed with the idea of taking over as Maria and Jason's mother. He confessed that Alan's desire to adopt my children wasn't about their well-being. It was about fulfilling a need she had developed due to her own struggles with fertility and grief. George further admitted that he hadn't supported Alan's decision to file for custody, and she had gone behind his back to do so. He expressed concern over her mental state and didn't believe she was in the right mindset to raise two grieving children. This testimony was a huge blow to Alan's case, and I could see the judge's expression shift as well. The next part of the trial involved Maria's testimony. Since the judge wanted to hear from both children, they were interviewed in private by a child advocate. Maria bravely told the advocate that she loved her and Alan but felt safe and loved at home with me. She mentioned how I had been there for her, and that the grief counselor was helping her cope with her mother's death. She also expressed confusion because Alan would say things that made her worrying, like the possibility of being sent away to boarding school, but she made it clear that she wanted to stay with me. Jason's interview, though shorter due to his age, echoed Maria's feelings. He, too, wanted to stay with me. Hearing their voices on the recording broke my heart, but their trust in me gave me strength. After everything was presented, the judge took a few days to make a decision. When we were called back to court, I finally heard the words I had been praying for: custody would remain with me. The ruling required that I maintain the current child care arrangements, which included a part-time nanny and continued counseling for the kids. I had no issue with that. I wanted to do everything possible to support Maria and Jason. Although I won the legal battle, it was clear that Alan wasn't handling the decision well. After court, she had an emotional breakdown in the hallway, crying and screaming that she had only been trying to do what was right for the kids. George tried to calm her down, but she felt betrayed by both the court and her husband. George later reached out to apologize for his part in the ordeal. He promised to help Alan get the emotional and mental support she needed, but understood if I needed to maintain some distance. I appreciated the gesture, but I wasn't ready to forgive them completely. With the trial behind us, I focused on getting back to a routine that worked for the kids. I kept flexible work hours and spent more time talking to them about their feelings, especially Maria. We had regular check-ins to ensure they knew I was always there for them. Things won't return to normal overnight, but I'm committed to being the father they need as we navigate life after this trial.